We do this.
The buyers that are winning right now are the ones that are willing to strike when the iron is hot, not the ones that's waiting for the perfect house, the perfect rate, the perfect condition. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Teach Me Tuesday. We are picking up where we left off last week, talking all about missed opportunities. So, guys, let's get right into it because I know these that these 15 minutes go by so fast. And so we want to make sure we hit some really good ones so that we can give you guys some great nuggets on how you can win in 2026 if home ownership is still a goal for you guys. All right, guys. So let's just jump right in. So, what about thinking they need the perfect conditions? I think that is a huge missed opportunities for both. I think both buyers and sellers. I think we can kind of talk about it on both ends. So what do you guys think? Wilma, have you had, that client? I'm pretty sure you have. Like where you didn't tuck them to see a couple homes and they're like, it's okay, but the rooms are too small, or oh, it's okay, but I wish I had, two full baths and a half, something like that. And they pass up on it because it doesn't meet everything on their list.
Right. Of course. Especially my first time home buyers. They want the perfect house, they want the perfect rate, they want the perfect time. And guess what? If all those things were perfect, there's going to be something that comes in that's going to make it, not perfect. All right. So you think about like if all those things were perfect, guess what? You're going to have a lot of competition out there trying to buy that same house because it's the perfect house. And also the rates are great. So you're going to have everybody out the wazoo trying to buy a house or just the perfect time. I mean, I don't even know what that means, perfect time. But I just think that a lot of times you just got to look at yourself, right, and say, hey, is this the right time for me? Is this the time me and my family need to expand and buy a property that we're comfortable in, and also can I afford the house? I just really think it comes down to those things. Like, man, it just come doing a self evaluation, saying, hey, am I ready for this commitment of purchasing a home?
You got a good point. So, I mean, I know you have tons of experience of working with both buyers and sellers. So, what advice would you give, right? To me, there are some things that I call like deal breakers, like, absolutely not. Are there a couple just, highlighted like non negotiables when it comes to a person
Mhm.
trying to find that quote unquote perfect home, like, if it meets the distance or something like that, like they should kind of be able to work through or look past? Or do you feel like it's kind of, subjective based on the individual itself?
Well, that's why, and we've had a webinar about this, guys. That's why it's so important that you are prepared before you go home shopping. Okay, and one of the things we tell you to do to be prepared is to create that list of must-haves, non
I like that.
right? Have those already pre-written because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. You're gonna start looking at houses. And if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a plan when you start looking at houses, your mind is gonna go everywhere. Okay. It's like, hey, this is what I need. Okay. So you can be laser focused on the homes that matter most to you and also price point. Have
Mhm.
that pre have those must-haves, have those non-negotiables already written out, and then that way we can eliminate all of the noise that might come into play when we start looking at these homes.
There you go.
Such great advice. Such great advice. And so, Gavin, on the loan side, what about that, that client? Of course, we don't hear too much on the house side because we don't necessarily deal with that part as much, but we hear about the perfect rate, oh, rates, rates, rates. I mean, what
Mhm.
advice would you give, or what do you have to say when it comes to the interest rate? I mean, because we know rates, are very, volatile. They're kind of fickle. They go up, they go down. They, just depends on what we got going on. And sometimes it's out of our
Mhm.
control. So, what advice would you give there in that rate area?
Yeah, I mean, if you're one of those folks out there, waiting on a rate to drop, or you're waiting on a perfect rate to buy a house, you're probably never going to be ready, because there is no perfect rate. What is perfect is what your payment's going to be. That's what you're mostly worried about when it comes to your term of your interest rate. Yes, ideally you want the lowest interest rate you can get, and that's why you should, I suggest you go shop to see who can offer you the best rates. But when it comes to waiting on the sideline because you think rates are too high or rates aren't where you want them to be, you got to ask yourself, am I happy with my mortgage, with the proposed mortgage payment? If I do buy a house right now at a 5.5% or 6% rate, does that fall in my budget? And if the answer is yes, then guess what? 5.5%, 6% is exactly where you need or would want to be because you can afford it, or you can budget for it. As opposed to continuing to pay rent or whatever other means that you have for living. You could be investing that money in your own self and back and earning equity in the meantime of doing so. So yeah, don't the whole sideline waiting on the rates to drop. That's just a mindset that I don't know where it was adopted from, but but it's not the way that you should be focused about buying a home. About what you can afford.
Well, Gavin, let me say this. I think I know what you mean by that, but I just think we got spoiled.
Of course.
When we saw rates drop to what, like
2.5%, 3%, man.
Oh man, dog, I don't want a rate unless it's 2%, but I just think that we can't live in those 2% days, you know what I'm saying? Because that wasn't normal. That wasn't average of what rates are normally. I don't know if y'all could talk about that a little bit.
I just think the easiest depiction of that is, look, guys, you gotta live somewhere, right? Just like you gotta get to wherever you gotta get to. So gas goes up and down regularly, but you're not gonna stop putting gas in your tank at $4 a gallon as opposed to when it's $2 a gallon. Guess what? You still go put the same. You still fill your tank up the same.
Right.
You may cautiously be like, well, I'm not gonna leisurely just drive around for an hour because gas is at $4 a gallon, as opposed to, but you still gonna buy the gas because you still got to get to where you got to be.
So what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Abraham, is you make adjustments, right? You make adjustments based on the market and based on the market conditions, right? You just have to make some adjustments in your lifestyle to be able to make home ownership affordable or attainable to you in the current market environment that we're in. So
real quick. You see my cup, guys? All right. This ain't my cup. This is my wife's cup. It says, I'd rather be at TJ Maxx. Right? Reason I bring that up, had a client, right? We were talking about the house. She was like, hey, I don't know. And the monthly payment is going to be XYZ. I said, okay, where do you want your monthly payment? It's like maybe $200 less. I said, okay. I said, where you shop at? She said, TJ Maxx. I said, how much you spend at TJ Maxx? She said, man, I spent like $100 a week. I said, dog, I tell you what, sacrifice 2 weeks at TJ Maxx. You can get your house. That's it. You got a house. Love it. All right, let's go. On to the
Absolutely love it. Oh, that's such good advice. So, everything comes with the sacrifice, right? And sometimes you got to ask yourself those tough questions. What am I willing to sacrifice to get what I want? Unfortunately, everybody can't have their cake and eat it too. Some people can, some people can't. You just kind of got to know where you fit in. All right, let's get into number 4 before we run out of time today. Underestimating buying power, right? So a lot of times people are a lot closer than they think. I know sometimes when we issue a pre-approval, people may be saying, or the realtor usually get back to us and like, can they go up a little more? Is there a little room in the, in their pre-approval to qualify for a little more? And typically, sometimes the answer is typically yes. We can find creative ways to make adjustments. When I say adjustments, I mean maybe somewhere between $5,000 to $20,000 in approval amount, just depending on if we can get them some additional down payment assistance or closing cost assistance, and we can do any type of interest rate buy down, or if the seller is willing to negotiate on the price a little more, we can kind of figure that out. So we say that to say, when it comes to underestimating a buyer's true buying power, you want to make sure that that conversation that the realtor is having, that buyer is having, is definitely including the lender, because at the end of the day, we're all a team and we're all, working towards team you to get you in that home and figuring out what that looks like. So guys, I know you probably have seen so many times where we're trying to, squeeze in some numbers or, look and see what options are out there. If any of you guys want to speak on just making sure you're connected with the right people or kind of plugged in to what's going on in the market to make sure that people are taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there.
I mean, no, Sean, I think you kind of hit it on the head. I mean, you just got to know and understand and communicate with the people that are involved in your corner. An agent, like you said, we can all get very creative about how to get you into the home that you may be excited about. Just because you are approved for 250,000, but a home is out there for 275, and man, that's the one. Realistically, can we try and make it work to where maybe you can, offer 260, 265, and we can get your numbers up there. You have those conversations so that we can talk that out, because we estimate, property taxes, homeowners insurance at a certain amount. But if for some reason the property taxes on that home is cheaper, or you can get a cheaper homeowners insurance policy, maybe we can increase that approval amount. Maybe we can get you higher. So just have the conversations. If there's something that you see and you're interested in, you got to make sure, that all parties are communicating. And that's where it just comes into having a great team so that you don't miss the opportunity of understanding your buying power.
Good job. I mean, well said. Well said. All right, let's switch gears real quickly to sellers before we wrap up. I know we was very buyer heavy, gave the buyers, some great advice on missing opportunities because of different things. But let's talk about sellers, right? Woman, I'm pretty sure you can definitely speak to this one. Sellers not preparing the home properly, right? Some people, I just want to sell it as is and not want to do any landscaping, no cleanup, it's cluttered. I mean, what do you say to that?
I want to sell it as is. Well, we need an as is price then, so that's what I like to say too. I mean, it's just one of those things that, I think about when you put a listing on the market. It's like prom day, right? You got to put, you got to pull out all the stops, pictures got to be nice. The house got to be clean. You want to make sure, things are neatly placed and not cluttered. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into it to present the home well to buyers when they walk in. So that I do know that. And LaShawn, I think I forgot the exact question you asked me, but I do know when you said that as is, it took me somewhere just now. So
what I was asking was like, how do you have that conversation with your sellers, right? Or what advice would you give, to a seller that wants to sell their home, but not necessarily, like I said, they don't want to do the sprucing up to sell it. Like, they don't want to put in a little bit of the legwork to do so. But like you said, I think you did answer the question. You said you got to price it like that, right?
Accordingly, right? So it's like, I think you have to take all that in consideration. I said, okay, well, if we're not going to do the necessary things to present the house well, we need to make sure it's priced accordingly as well. Okay. If there's some things that need to be repaired, but you're not going to fix them, okay, well, let's look at some comps or some comparative homes that are like this and see what they sold for. And then I think after I show them those things like that, and I say, hey, we just make these minor fixes or whatever, we could bump up the price, maybe another couple grand. And it just from some minor things that we do in the house that could, you could profit from after a sale. So that's kind of like how I like to talk to them. I allow the seller to make their decision. Don't get me wrong. I don't make the seller do something they don't want to, but I do present other homes that are like theirs, and what maybe some minor paint here, minor repair here will do as far as the getting the home sold, and also the price point we listed at. So
yeah, I just want to piggyback off you real quick before we close out. I think that kind of brings us to our next point is that people that sellers sometimes make the mistake of when they decide to not do certain things or decide that we'll just see what happens, see what kind of feedback we get. But they don't offer anything to incentivize someone to purchase their home in an as-is condition, or in a well, I'm not going to paint the walls, and I know they need painting, or I'm not going to cover a certain spot that had some damage, but I'm not, or the floors need to be replaced. I'm not going to. If you don't offer an incentive, to say, hey, yeah, I'm selling it at this, but guess what? If you buy it, I'm willing to give X amount of dollars towards getting the floors repaired, or whatever it may be. So you also have to, don't make the mistake of not offering the incentive to compensate for the condition of the home that you're trying to sell without you doing the repairs yourself. So I think that's another big mistake a lot of sellers sometimes make.
Agreed.
Well, that's great advice. Well, guys, that is our time for today. So once again, do not sit on the sidelines. Please make sure you stop all the guessing. If you guys want additional information, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, whether you want to buy, sell, refinance, or just want clarity about the process. We are here to help you. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Teach Me Tuesday, and we will catch you guys next time.
That's right. Get off the sideline. Put me in, coach. Put me in.